What is up? Welcome to Just Facts, the docket, presented by Defense Diaries. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and I'm so glad you all are here. So we're taking a pivot. You know, we do a lot of Delphi stuff here because to me that case has been kind of at the forefront of my mind in terms of everything that's been going on legally. But just today, we have a case that's obviously has a lot to do with a case that had taken place back in 2021, really. Well, the actual crime took place in 2021, but a trial that started today, which I think is going to have potentially a massive impact moving forward on the legal system in our country with respect to parents and the accountability that they may have with respect to their children. And those children that commit violent acts. And it's the Jennifer Crumbley case. Opening arguments started today, and they got through about 3 to 4 witnesses. And it's really an important trial. I know we've got Draconis going on out there. I know the Treehouse, we have the pro se. Pro se Tucker got his mistrial, which if he would have hired a lawyer, he would have gotten not guilty. So, I mean, good on him that he was able to do that. But if they try him again, I would recommend they hire a lawyer because they really don't have much evidence in that case, even though I kind of get the feeling that he did it, but the fact of the matter is there's those cases in life where law enforcement just can't get the evidence to get somebody, even though they know that he did it, so we'll see what the ego of that state's attorney is in terms of whether or not he's going to try to move forward with a case against him. But so today I had to pivot, and I'm super excited about it. I was originally going to have Josh Schiffer on, who is one of my homies from CourtTV, and I was able to pivot to just an amazing human being, one of my favorite people who I'm on CourtTV with, Law and Crime with. She's an amazing guest analyst for all the law shows. She is a consultant for law enforcement, a litigation consultant for law enforcement, and she's brilliant. She's beautiful inside and out. She's one of my absolute go-tos. So I was thrilled when I saw her tweet about this case, because then I knew that I could hit her up, and I was super excited to have her. So without further ado, let's bring her on. Our girl, what's up, Sunny Slaughter? How are you?
Hey, look, you got me so humbled. Thank you so much. When you sent that tweet, that message, I was like, oh yeah. I had to do my hair and makeup and stuff. I have my PJs on, working from the living room. But
I love it.
So glad to be on with you and to really talk about this important case. You and I, as you said, we've been on the shows together talking true crime, all the great cases. And thanks for the update. I did not know that Tree Dude got a mistrial. I've been on that
mistrial.
Yeah, he's
I mean, I watched his I didn't watch a lot of it, like the trial, because it was painful. I watched some of the early stuff, where I've had cases where, I've had a pro se defendant, and where I've had to sit back and kind of just monitor the case. You know what I mean? It's not that they can't do it. They just don't understand how to get evidence in, they don't understand the rules of evidence process. Yeah. And it's super frustrating for the judge, for all the lawyers, because they still have to follow the rules of evidence because it's an appellate record. And,
right.
If he's convicted, that's all they have to go by is the appellate record. And if he's not able to properly get evidence in by following the rules of evidence, the appellate court's hands are tied. You know what I mean? And judges do give a little bit of leeway to pro se defendants. But ultimately, his closing was compelling, and when you compound it with the fact that they really didn't have shit on the guy, they didn't have any smoking gun evidence against him, they just really didn't, other than kind of like people like, you know, like the common sense thing. So yeah, I wasn't shocked. I actually thought he was going to get not guilty just based on the kind
Really?
of the.
I watched it. I covered it on Court TV with Julie. I covered it multiple days, and my only concern about pro se, besides them not having actual counsel, was
Right.
if you are going to do that, and I kind of said this, pro se does not mean that you get to skip the process. There is a process in place. And when you don't know the process of the criminal justice system and the decorum of the courts, that becomes problematic. And the judge
Right.
did give a lot of leeway, and I did explain that to the public, that the judge gave a lot of leeway because of the potential for any appeal that could have been used. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next.
Yeah,
I know
I'd be surprised if they decide to try him again. Like, because I mean, like the evidence isn't going to change. You know what I mean?
right.
And it's like, so I don't know. I
And
mean, we'll
that's for
see.
law enforcement. That is the duty of those that I train every single day and all the time, talking about investigative process, which is a word that I'm always saying in class. And sometimes, we got a process. There's a process. We have policies. You have to follow the investigative process. And as we talk about this upcoming case, or the case that we're going to talk about tonight, everything matters. Process, and we're in the courtroom now, but long before we get to the courtroom, and this, and I always tell people, okay, I'm not a lawyer. I just played the litigation expert and the law enforcement expert on TV.
Well, you know your shit. That's all.
But yeah. I wanted to be a lawyer, so I have my own, like my codes, my Black Laws dictionary. Yeah, I am a researcher by history in life, and I always like to delve through the cases and the facts, and that's what matters. So, but long before anything gets to the courtroom, and before it even comes to you as the defense attorney, the law enforcement process from the very first call. People always think it's when they arrive at the scene. Actually, the case starts at the 911 call, the manner in which law enforcement is notified of an actual or potential crime. That's when the crime scene begins, because all of that stuff becomes admissible. It's the stuff that I am listening to as the expert, and people don't realize, as the expert witness, as the litigation person, I have to go through all of that, and people don't understand process. So in this particular case, when we think about Jennifer, I covered the Ethan Crumbley case, this mass shooting, school shooting and murder, for Scripps News. It was one of the cases that I was on and covering for them. And Ethan, from the 911 call from the school, where the dad was calling, all of those things, that is a part of the evidence that they're going to be using.
Yep.
And all of that. And I'm also, your people don't know, I'm from New Jersey originally. And we always talk about your wife being a northerner like me, a kind of Philly, Jersey girl. So I have I'm from New Jersey. I got a dash of Philly and a dash of be more. So
well, you got all the good East Coast shit.
I got all the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm thinking about cases and work, and I was a school board member for the city of Trenton. So I served on a public school board, and for several years, the city, good sized district, and all of the policies and practices. So I bring things from years ago all the way forward. And I kept thinking, and I also have 4 kids. What is it that the parents think that they miss, that the school observed and kept trying to tell them was problematic? It's like, they kept telling you at the school something was wrong.
Yep.
And I get it. I was a solo mom, and you gotta take off work. And I'm a mom of 4. They are now adults, thank goodness. But my youngest son, yeah, I had to go to school for him several times. Now I've also had to deal with his stuff as a now adult. He's 21, I'll be 22. But I've had a child that
Right.
was problematic. And I was a solo parent. I didn't have the husband to go and all of that. So I get that. But when I knew something was wrong, you have
I
kids,
mean,
Bob,
I got 4 too. It's like, and we're going to get into that because that really strikes at the heart of this case. You know what I mean? Like, so here's what I want to do. And you touched upon it a little bit, like your tweet today. And I told you I was going to read this because it was fire. So I'm going to read it because it's really, I think, a beautiful introduction and kind of like what I want to discuss with you about this case tonight. And because you just touch on everything. It's such a beautiful tweet. And all my mods, y'all need to be throwing Sonny's Twitter in the thread, please, so that because everybody needs to be following Sonny always. Like, please. I see they got you in there. And Sonny, if there's anything else you want us to throw in there, just let them know. Okay.
Oh
All
my
right.
God.
So
Hey y'all.
all right, so this is how she starts, and this is from Sonny had tweeted this, and it was actually from her LinkedIn. She had posted this in her LinkedIn, and she wanted to share it to her Twitter. So, and she actually tweeted it. Would you tweet this yesterday or today?
Yes,
Today, right?
yesterday.
Okay. So jury selection began yesterday for the case of Jennifer Crumbley, the mother of Ethan Crumbley, the shooter responsible for the tragic 2021 school shooting at Oxford High School. This incident took the lives of several innocent individuals and caused injuries to many more. The subject of gun violence and whether parents bear responsibility for their children's criminal actions is a complex and nuanced conversation that requires a comprehensive perspective. So spot on. It's like when like Josh flaked and it was like a godsend that I just ran into this tweet. I'm like, because this is exactly what I wanted to talk about with this case. So in this specific case, Ethan exhibited concerning and well-documented behaviors and interactions that were known to his parents and the school authorities. Unfortunately, the parents dismissed and ignored the school's attempts to address these concerns, including on the day of the shooting. The responsibility of parents, guardians, and individuals in possession of firearms begins with promoting gun safety and prevention measures. Ethan's parents failed in their duty to intervene, instead acquiring a gun when he was not mentally, emotionally, and intellectually prepared. My professional opinion is that his suitability or lack thereof does not diminish his accountability, understanding, or culpability for his actions as determined by a competency hearing in court. While his actions and intent were evident, his reasoning and rationale remain unclear. Therefore, his parents must be held accountable and are culpable based on their knowledge of their child, not merely their beliefs. As parents, we cannot know every aspect of our children's lives. However, when we possess and ignore such knowledge, we must take action, considering factors such as age, living conditions, health, and mental well-being. The Crumbleys placed the gun in Ethan's hands. The jury will evaluate the evidence and facts, connecting the dots to reach a verdict. It is crucial to avoid sweeping generalizations about parental culpability in such cases. Each situation must be examined on its own merits, considering the evidence, the facts, and thorough investigations conducted. That's a fucking mic drop right there. That tweet was so on point. It was almost like I had written it, because it's exactly what I've been thinking about this case for 2 days. Like what you wrote was so beautifully penned, and so every element, like every single element of it was on point, because it's exactly what the issue is before us, So well done. So if y'all are following Tony on Twitter, now you know. So there you go.
That really sounded good when you read that. I was like, oh, that was like some of my best writing right there.
Hey, I like, I do that for a living. I do that podcast thing. So like, I can cry, but it's like, I wanted to do it the justice it deserved because it's beautifully
Thank you.
written
Thank you.
and everything that you said is spot on. And it's all the stuff that we want to talk about. So since you covered this for scripts, I had written up kind of a little, like a rough timeline of kind of what happened with Ethan. Do you want to go through it just in terms
Yes,
of
yeah.
like, I'm gonna
Go through yours. Let's do it,
all
and
right.
then I can weigh in. But yeah, let's do it your
All
way.
right. So, okay, cool. Uh, we're going to go back to November 30th of 2021. And I'm going to first tell what happened on that day. If y'all aren't familiar with what happened on that horrible day. But we're going to go back a little bit because when we're looking at the case that's now in front of the bar, in front of the judge, Jennifer's, we have to, for the exact things that Sonny was talking about with respect to knowledge and what the parents knew and should have known in terms of their son, and they just did nothing about it, which is what landed them both in court. Now they're trying each parent separately, and right now we just happen to be at Jennifer Crumbley is the one who is being tried first. So on November 31st, 2021, Ethan Crumbley left for school to Oxford High School, and it was like any other day, except this day was like no other day for him, as Ethan had his brand new 9mm Sig Sauer, which his father James had bought him just 4 days earlier on Black Friday, packed in his backpack, which he would use to end the lives of 4 innocent classmates. Now I'm going to throw up a couple pictures here. This is Ethan. If you guys have never seen him, that's Ethan Crumbley. And he subsequently pled guilty, and they did have a competency hearing initially. And I want to touch upon that with you too, Sonny, but they found him competent to stand trial. And ultimately he took the plea. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole at the young age of, I think at the time that he was sentenced, he had turned 16, and it's
Yes.
very, very unusual. And as a matter of fact, the Supreme Court had, sounded in on this ability to be able to sentence kids that are under the age of 18 to life without the possibility of parole.
Yes.
But he was an exception to that rule, and what do you like? Of course, yes.
That kind of goes. I don't know if you all know about that, or Bob, if you know about that Supreme Court decision and where it kind of evolves from. Brian Stevenson, I lived in Alabama off and on for more than 30 years. Brian Stevenson of the Equal Justice Initiative. I have done a lot of work with the Southern Poverty Law Center and really followed and been involved in stuff with the Equal Justice Initiative. And one of the things that he has addressed in his decades of work was the injustices around children who are incarcerated, mass incarceration, and sentencing disparities when it comes to a whole host of factors: age, race, economics, mental health, and capability and culpability. And Brian Stevenson says, we are not, all of us are not, I won't get it right all the way, but what he was saying was we are more than the worst thing that we have ever done. And that sentencing children of a particular age, and Ethan would fall under this criteria, is not in the best interest of society when incarceration is supposed to have redeeming qualities, and is supposed to be there in addition to the punitive, but also a restorative factor. And I thread so many lines in my work, which people think is unusual, but I am also focused on mass incarceration. I am the external compliance officer for a reentry program in the state of Alabama, actually. So, but Ethan's case and cases like his are uniquely centered around the concerns that we all should have when it comes to justice, injustice, and the criminal justice system. Ethan committed a heinous crime at such a young age. Now, of course, even though he pled guilty, he's got an appeal. We have to think about, does he have redeeming qualities that will allow him? There are countless children his age, though, and younger, incarcerated in prisons across the United States.
Yep.
But are our prisons well equipped to handle those? So I absolutely think
they're not well equipped to handle adults. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that. Like, and Allison is fervent about, like, she gets furious about sentencing of kids that have undeveloped minds. Like holding them to the same standards for what are clearly adult acts. This was clearly an adult act. It was the violence of it was beyond comprehension. But you cannot dismiss the fact that he just does not have a fully developed mind. And that only comes with time and with age and with experience, like all those things. And it's like, it's such a hard thing for people to grapple with, because when you look at the horrors that had befallen all these 4 beautiful kids and the 6 other people that were injured, and it just like the fallout from that is so hard for people to like try to say, okay, but this was a kid, can we give him some kind of pass? It's like people just can't wrap their mind around that concept. You know what I mean? And I get it, but the fact still remains, this kid's mind was not fully developed, I don't know what was going on in his home in terms of whether he was, subject to abuse of any kind, whether it mental, physical, sexual. I don't know any of those things. Like there's something in his psyche that caused him to be broken at a very early age. And it could have been genetics. It could have been a variety of things. I don't know if it's a nurture or nature issue with him. I don't, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's hard to know,
And I don't think that he should be released. That's not what I'm saying.
Neither.
And he is absolutely guilty. He was a child that killed children, and some of the most heinous murders, because I study serial killers and all these murders, have been committed by very young people. I don't even know. I don't know if you all remember, I think it was 10 years old, little redhead boy who killed one of his classmates. I think he was like 8, 9, or 10 when he murdered him. And
I think I remember that case.
Yeah,
I don't remember the case. Somebody in the chat will probably know.
But this is not, he doesn't get a pass. Nobody gets a pass for this.
No pass.
But we do have to take into consideration all of the factors that you just said. But we also need to improve our criminal justice system. It is broken. It is damaging. It is further damaging and all we're doing is packing it in, and we're still not fixing the system and the services that are needed. Because even when people are incarcerated, even if they're incarcerated for life, they still deserve and need the things that we as a society are supposed to provide. They still need mental health services. They still need all of those things. And DJ, I feel it's an example of cross nature and terrible nurture. I agree. There's definitely something wrong. But that's the point. He's in jail, and are we going to know? And yes, I agree. You are a parent, be a parent. They did. I agree that they are.
We're digging into that, like, because to me, that's what this whole trial is about. And like you so eloquently put it in your tweet, that we can't have this become that they, like, because the fear in terms of finding her guilty is that it becomes some kind of broad sweeping, indictment on all parents where, their kids do something horrific. Now they're going to be trying every parent. It's a case by case situation. It's got to be that way. And when you look at the facts of this case, which I'm going to put up the text messages and the things like the day of, like, I mean, what sold me on, like, because when Allison didn't know about the case against Jennifer, she had obviously heard about the horrible school shooting, but she didn't realize that they had charged both the parents with involuntary manslaughter, 4 counts each. And like when she first started hearing the opening, she's like, "Oh, what the fuck? Like, well, are you kidding me?" And then I'm like, wait for it. And then she's like, oh, she's like, they were in the school that. So we're gonna get to all that because, like,
okay,
that's
you go.
That's what this case is all about. All right, so
you finish unpacking it. Yeah, you finish unpacking it because I think people need to know the whole story and not just the. So you keep going,
sure.
And yeah, because
sure.
I think that's
jump in whenever. Like, like you have free reign to just like, boop, I'm coming in. All right, so so ultimately he ends up in school with his 9mm packed in his backpack, which again he would use to end the lives of 4 innocent classmates. And I'm going to throw up those beautiful young kids who lost their lives far too young, which is just devastating stuff. And these kids are all lost to their parents permanently. And starting from the left and going through them, we've got Hannah St. Juliana, we've got Justin Schilling, and that's top row. And then we've got Tate Meyer and Madison Baldwin. Okay, let me pull this Mandy's thing off here. All right, so those are the kids who lost their lives, young high school students with their whole lives in front of them. And I just can't think of a situation. And like you said, Sonny, you've got 4 kids. All yours are grown. I've still got one that just started, middle school, 6th grader, Scarlett, who my followers and subs all know who she is because she's a ham. But, like this thing is such a thing. The school shooting thing is something that just haunts me constantly. It's like when we were in school, we used to have like tornado,
Yes.
she's just like, go in the hallway and put your head between your knees for tornadoes. Like there was no such thing as, active shooter things. Like where my kids are having to learn how to try to survive if somebody walks in there with a gun and starts going off, so it's such a different world that, and it's heartbreaking. So, all right, before that happened that day though, before it occurred, the school that morning had contacted Ethan's parents, Jennifer and James Crumbley, and they had called them to the school because he had drawn some very disturbing images on a math quiz that he had taken at around 9 a.m. in the morning. His parents ended up coming to the school and they met with the school counselor and the principal of the school. Ethan was in attendance in the meeting. The meeting lasted approximately 11 minutes. And the school gave the Crumbleys the option to take Ethan home or to leave him at school. And I'm going to put up the image of what he ended up drafting up on his let me see if I can find it. I don't know where the hell I put it.
The picture that he did.
Yeah, it's like it's so crazy. It's such a crazy picture.
Yeah. While you're looking for that, I don't think this was Ethan's first issue at school. He was reportedly a loner, and it's okay to be a loner, but he had some other behaviors that were signaling to the teachers and to the staff that, there were some concerns there. So I don't want anyone to think like this one thing he drew a picture and that was the button that hit the crisis. I think over time, they were noticing behaviors, and whoever he did talk to might have had some, because he did text a friend or something to say he
He
was.
did. Right.
Yeah,
He had texted a buddy, saying, look, like saying that he was having issues.
yeah, yeah,
So like I'm like I've been asking my parents, like they need to bring me to a doctor. It's like
yeah.
I'm having really dark thoughts, and they ultimately were just like it just was like they weren't, the parents weren't doing anything about it, and it was
He
so
was
disturbing.
he was asking for help. He was crying out for help in the way that he could, and it just seems like his parents were, well, we're too busy. And it's probably, sometimes people, and we may have all at some point in our lives said, because I've heard people say, boys will be boys and everything is going to be okay, and don't worry about it, it's not that big of a deal. And I think we should all not do that part. Um,
Yeah, I
we,
think that the boys will be boys like
I
era
hate
has
that
ended.
one.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
the
I,
worst.
I I I think I probably hate that one more than anything, because I'm like, exactly what does that mean? But because
Yeah, well, it means like rape culture,
yeah,
violence. It's like there's no part of it that's okay. Like they're like
mm,
the boys be boys thing needs to die, and just never come back, because it's like inexcusable. You know what I mean? It's that simple. Like they're
yeah. And I have two sons and I have two daughters, so they are. I have girl, boy, 29, 25, 23, and my youngest son will be 22. And I will never forget when my youngest, the first time he jumped off the couch. And I was like, "Oh hell no!" Like, what is going on here? Because the other ones hadn't done that, and I said, "Oh, are you crazy or something?"
I
And he
know.
was the one. The mirror fell off, cut his hand, and we were about to go to church, and there's blood everywhere. And I looked and I said, because I couldn't. I was trying to keep it together for the other kids because they came in. Xavier hurt his hand, and I look and I saw this blood, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this boy's trying to take off his hand. And so my comeback was, now we're going to miss church, because I was getting ready. I said, now we're going to miss. And I was thinking, but on the inside, I was really panicking, and I said, okay, go and get your stuff so we can go. And when they all left, I leaned over the sink and I said, oh my God, this one right here is going to test everything. So,
Yeah.
but immediately to the hospital. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
But he's been the one testing everything ever since. So, oh yeah, you found it. Good.
I found it. I had to do some maneuvering. All right, so this is the paper. So you can see up here at the top, it's November 30th, which is the day of the shooting. You can see it's at 8:59 a.m. So this is first thing when he gets into school, right? And he's got, at that point in the morning, we know that he's brought the weapon, and we know that he's got murder on his mind, like already, bright and early. All right, so doesn't even take the test, as you can see, the little quiz here. And I'm going to blow up all the different things. We've got this. Let's see if I can make it bigger. I should be able to. Let me see. Let me see if I can make it larger. Okay. All right. So he draws pretty well,
Yeah.
and I want everybody out there to try to imagine being
Mhm.
called to school, and especially parents out there, and you sit down in the office and you've got a counselor whose job is to try to kind of speak to the children that they think are having issues, and try to like get somewhere with them to see if they can figure out what's going on. And you've got a principal who's obviously got a duty to every student in that school, as well as the faculty, to keep people safe. And so they sit these two folks down, and both James and Jennifer are there. And, they hand them this paper, and you can see it says, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me," in all caps. And he's got this picture that he drew of the 9mm Sig Sauer that he just got, and then you look over here and we've got the bullet, okay, where it says blood everywhere. You've got this picture. Like when I first looked at this thing, when I first saw it years ago, I'm like, is that a baseball pitcher? And then I quickly realized, like, no, that's a dead kid with bullet holes and blood bleeding through. And then you get down here and you've got "My life is useless," and you've got "The world is dead." And when I look at this, Sonny, in all honesty, I don't give a shit what any school counselor, what any principal, if there's a resource cop, I don't give a shit what any of them are saying to me. I am taking my kid out of school. I'm putting my kid in the car immediately, and I'm bringing my kid to get help at a mental health facility because I know that they are in absolute peril. Like any parent that looks at this and doesn't think immediately, my God, my kid needs immediate help. Like we cannot pretend that we don't have 600 school shootings a year going on in this country. It's an absolute epidemic,
right?
And like for any parent to see that, like this is what made me feel that both of them were culpable more than anything else, more than the gun safety, more than the gun box or the gun, the gun box not being locked. All that stuff is a part of the puzzle. But when on the morning of the shooting, they have this handed to them, and they in the school, for whatever reason, and maybe you can give me some insight, it gives them the choice of whether or not to leave him at school or to take him. I mean, I don't know.
So I told you before we got on air, I'm a former school board member for a school district in the city of Trenton. That was years ago. It was more than 20 years ago. However, one of the problems that I have with this is not just a drawing. The words, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." This entire picture was enough to trigger law enforcement removing him to a safe space and immediate intervention and not giving the parents the option. I said that, I have 4 kids and everything. I don't know how many of you have ever gotten a call to come to your child's school for a real crisis. And it will be actually 20 years to the day in 2 days, January 27, 2003. I got a call to come to my children's school, my daughter's school, my oldest elementary school. And when I got there, mind you, I was a school board member at the time. And when I got there, she was sitting on the side and the teacher, was talking. She was talking to me. She said, "I need to have a conversation with you." And she told me something that I never expected to hear. She said that the Child Assault Prevention Services program had come to the school. Oh, wonderful. I'm thinking, as a school board member, I said they needed to be at all of the schools. She said, "My daughter told her my dad did that to me." The program that I required for every school to have saved my own daughter, because that day, 20 years ago, in 2 days, saved my daughter. I had to be calm. My daughter was 7 at the time.
Wow.
But when the school calls you and they say that there is a problem, I want all of your listeners to know that as a parent, you are responsible which is why I am holding his parents to the fire on this. As you said earlier, what were the counselors? You talked about this. There are processes in place, and you talked about the administrator, the teachers, and everybody has to be safe. Well, I had the teacher take my daughter. She said, "What do you want me to do? I'm a school board member, but I was a parent. I could have said anything." I told her to follow the process. As calm as I am talking to you all now, I said, follow the process. We have protocols in place for this. I needed her to do her job because I was going to do mine as a mom. And as she took my daughter to one location, I went to the counselor's office and asked her to step out of her office and go to the nurse's office to see about my daughter. And of course, I called him on the phone and I said a few choice words to him. And I said, get up, get up. I didn't know what the rest of the process was going to look like. And sometimes you do not know. And you think, now, I can go from 0 to 60 in 0. And we always think that we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Ethan's parents may have been caught off guard, but they should not have been caught off guard that their child wrote, "Help me." You cannot get any bigger than that. My daughter did not say anything, but I had a duty to intervene. I had a duty to protect her, and I had a duty to protect every other child that potentially could have been harmed or was harmed, and I didn't know. But I couldn't do it irrational. And I know people say, I would have done this, and you don't know what you would do until you are in the moment. But what I can tell you is they did not do anything. Their son said, "Help me." And they did not. They ignored that. The school, I don't know what their process and policies were back then, but it should have been something different. He should have been made to leave because that might have helped. I got my daughter the help that she needed.
It would have saved lives. Period.
Yes.
It would have saved all of those kids would still be alive. It's as simple as that. There's no other way to slice it. I understand that Ethan's the one who did the deed, but they had the opportunity and the duty at that point in time, that morning in that school, to pull their kid out. And everybody always says it, and there's so much truth to it. We have to take driver's ed to get a damn driver's license to drive a car, but any old asshole can be a parent, and that's a scary proposition.
Or they can be a sperm donor or an egg carrier. But parenting, I don't think we even talk about the realities of parenting and it's not 18. You said when your kid is 18, they're grown. No, they're not. No. I told you how old my kids are. Oh my gosh, they're not grown. I mean, and they're doing well, but they're not grown. They are still, when they call and that mom, whatever it sounds like, the first, I said, "What's wrong?" And they said, it's the tone. Everything. You gotta know.
Immediately.
The look, you just like, I'm not saying that you catch everything, but he said,
help me. It's like that alone. Like when you talk about a cry for help, that quite literally is the most succinct way to cry for help, by writing "help me" on a piece of paper, and for them to ignore it is they're accountable.
The teacher would see it. He knew it was a test. He knew that he had to hand it in to the teacher.
Exactly.
It wasn't like he was just scribbling on something. It was a test that he had to hand in.
Exactly. There was 100% getting handed in and 100% getting looked at by the teacher that day, And I mean, it got looked at immediately. As soon as she grabbed it out of his hand, she's like, "What is this? There's no math work done on this. Like what, And immediately she does what she's supposed to do. She says, she contacts the front office, says, "Yo, we got an issue here. I need Ethan to come up here." They call the parents, they come in. All right. So that's the day of. Now but it doesn't stop there. Okay. I want to go to a text thread between Ethan and Jennifer that occurred, I believe it was on the day, the 29th. Okay. And it's equally as shocking. Let me see if I can find it here. I think this might be it. Let me see. Okay. Let me double check.
Yeah, somebody said Child Protective Services. You're right. I'm not sure why they were not called. Oh, you're right. They show up for a diaper rash. Literally, my sister, whose husband is an attorney, they called it because my niece's, her hair was matted. Her mom is Black. She happens to be white, and her hair was matted because she has staticky hair. She doesn't like to get her hair done. She is definitely my niece. But yeah, okay, now look at
all right. So this is the day preceding the day shooting. So these are text messages that were recovered from Jennifer's phone. So November 29th, 2021, Jennifer to Ethan, 11:53 a.m. Seriously? And so she's texting him while he's in school. Seriously? Looking up bullets in school? Ethan, 11:54 a.m. What? Ethan, oh yeah, I already went to the office for that. Ethan, it was in the first hour. All I did was look up a certain caliber at the end of class because I was curious. Ethan, it was on my phone. Ethan, completely harmless. Ethan, teachers just have no privacy. Ethan, they said I'm all good. Ethan, I understand why they talked to me and they said that I am good. Ethan, this is nothing I should get in trouble about. Jennifer, 12:13 p.m. You're not. They left me a voicemail, included emojis of woman covering her face. Jennifer, did you at least show them a pic of your new gun? Ethan, no, I didn't show them a pic. The pic? My God. Ethan, I only told them I went to the range with you on Saturday. Ethan, it was a harmless act. Wow. Like how, like you read those words, man, you read those words the day before this goes down and it's like, it's haunting. Ethan, I have this bullet cartridge in my room that I didn't know what kind of bullet it was. And it said it was a 22. So at the end of the first hour, I just looked up different types of 22 bullets. And I guess the teachers can't get their eyes off my screen, shaking my head. Jennifer, 12:30 p.m. And this, when the case broke, when this all went down, this was the text that everybody in the world was like, oh my God, LOL, I'm not mad. You have to learn not to get caught. Now, if you've been watching the trial, this didn't come out yet. It will. This is some of the strongest evidence that they have against the mom, including what we just put up. Ethan, I know, LOL. Ethan, laughing emojis. Ethan, I didn't want something like this little. I didn't want something this little to get me into trouble because, well, I didn't want to get into trouble. LOL, meaning, he didn't want to get in trouble at home as well as at school. So he didn't get in trouble at school. So he didn't want to get in trouble with mom at home. I want to hear Ethan. I want to hear the voicemail when I get home, though. Ethan, also, I never tried to hide looking at the bullet. I just didn't think a teacher would be staring at my phone. Jennifer, okay, I saved it. So you've got that the day before, and at that point, you double it up with what. So she gets a voicemail from the school the day prior. She has this text thread with her son. And then the following day, she's called into school and she's handed that piece of paper that has those drawings and those words on it. And, she makes the decision along with her husband to leave him at the school instead of taking him out, and that's where the culpability is. That is what separates this case from other
Yes.
cases,
Mhm.
because they knew, she knew, and when this case starts getting developed, and I hope that this case gets legs, because it really is the
Right.
most important case going on right now. I know Trichonis is going on and people are fascinated with that case, and it's tragic, obviously. Like Jennifer Dulos, we want justice for her, especially because that Foytis denied her that by killing himself.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get some justice on that. But this trial is different. This trial goes to the fabric of our society right now, and just the ramifications of it in terms of moving forward, because every other state's going to look at this. You know what I mean,
Right.
Sonny? If they come back with the guilty verdict, which I think they should. I don't even like, and I'm a defense attorney. I'm big
Yeah.
on let's see all the evidence, but I've seen it. I know this is the evidence. I'm looking at the evidence. No one's changing my mind about what I've just seen, and that those parents are responsible. That but for them not doing their duty as parents, those kids would be alive. Had they done what they were supposed to do as parents, those kids are all alive. It's that simple. This case is very, very simple. So,
I can't figure out what the argument could be. And she was so, and I actually do a lot of defense work as the expert. She was so kind of matter of fact about, now he's in school. First of all, why is she texting him this whole long conversation while they're in school? I'm thinking, my kids, no, we're not. Like, what are you doing that you have this much time to text me at school? Or are the teachers not paying attention? But
I mean,
when
it's like,
she
like
laughs
I,
at this.
I know my 17-year-old. So we have two that are grown and out of the house. I've got a firefighter son who I'm exceptionally proud of, and my daughter's 30.
Oh,
And she's doing amazing things, and
oh wow. Look.
but like you said, they're still kids. When they
Yes.
call and they say mom or dad, and they have that tone, they need their parent. You're never done being a parent. I don't care.
No,
You know,
no, no.
like it's I mean, sometimes later in life, when we're older, or our folks are older, we kind of, that role switches a little bit to where we're
Yeah,
almost parents to our parents because they need our help. But like at that stage, we're still very much their parents, and if they need a shoulder to lean on or to
right.
cry on, we're there always. So like, and I think about my 17-year-old, and like all teenagers, especially in the modern era with screens and cell phones and all that shit, they disappear up into their rooms. And my 16, probably at the age of 14, they start disappearing into their room, and you don't know what the hell they're doing in there,
Exactly.
and I'm, I'm cognizant of being able to allow them to have privacy for themselves,
Oh yeah.
because they're trying to learn how to become an adult, and they're trying to learn themselves, and like, just learn about life and all the things that you have to go through, through those brutal years of being a teenager, about being human, and it's like, you need to give them a wide berth. You need to give them grace and allow them to do that. So I'm not trying to be up my 17-year-old's ass all the time. I hope that the lessons that I've taught her in
Exactly.
terms of, being a good person, and, how to handle adversity, and, don't be a follower, be a leader. The things that I've like tried to pound into her head and all my kids' heads their entire lives, that they stick and that they apply them in life, but if I go to school, notwithstanding all that, notwithstanding that I don't know what she's doing on socials and all that stuff. When I get a thing like that handed to me at school, you could bet your ass I'm coming straight to my house after I get her in on a 72-hour hold to have her evaluated for suicidal
Yeah.
ideations, homicidal ideations, and I'm going through every square inch of her room, which I never would do. I respect my kids' privacy, but when it comes to that,
Yeah.
all bets are off. Then I'm digging in, and then I'm finding that journal that this kid was writing, and I'm seeing how damaged he is. And, everything was preventable by just doing a modicum of parenting, which just they failed miserably. It's like
I
it's
have done
so,
all of
oh
that.
man.
My
I mean, you
son,
got
my youngest one, he was like that. Let me see. We have done hospital stays. We have done he had suicidal ideation. He had all these different diagnoses. And I remember I have called the police on him myself. And one time he was acting out. The two in the middle, I call them. So my kids are called the twins and the bookends. The oldest and the youngest are the bookends. Those two, they can barely hold stuff up. The two in the middle, they're the most like me. But when my son acted up one time, and I said, "We're taking your brother to the hospital," he did not want to go. But I put him in the car. We drove him to Children's Hospital. He bails out of the car, and I'm telling you all my personal story. So I have no shame because this is what happened. He jumped out the car. He went to running. The siblings go after him. I'm parking the car. I'm barreling down the street to get him. On the phone, calling one of the police officers saying, I need y'all help. I'm calling some of my friends in. I said, I need y'all help. I get there and he is attacking his siblings who are trying to get him in the hospital. And
Wow.
when I tell you, it was the first time we were down, the hospital door was there. We were probably down here. And one of the police officers, he said, "Sonny, we're on our way. He was the sergeant. He said, I'm sending some folks." And I said, "Okay, but this is going to be a problem." And I put my own son in a police chokehold.
Man.
And he was as tough as strong as nails, but my other kids were saying, Mom, I needed to get him to the hospital. The nurses and stuff, they got the call and they came running outside, the ambulance down. We got him in there. He was my child that was in crisis. He was constantly, it was a battle with him. So when I see Ethan and his parents ignored, I understand the fight. I understand when you don't know what to do, when you're trying, but when you do nothing, that's where my problem comes in. I
100%.
used every single resource. Of course, my children are Black, so you don't ever want to call the police on, your Black children. But
Truth.
not,
Truth.
but my family members are very diverse racially. I was calling everybody. I didn't care. I called judges. I used everything and everyone at my disposal. I didn't know everything. So he was the one. So I say again, when Ethan's parents, nothing was funny about this with his mom and the text message. And my kids, I mean, it's Alabama, Sweet Home Alabama. Yeah, we're weapons, but I could not have any in the house with him because I didn't trust him.
Yeah.
I didn't trust him. But yeah, we're second amendment folks that we'd like to get down with. My children learned to shoot guns when they are very young, but when he became problematic, that became the safety issue, and they were removed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're a good mother. You know what I mean? That's a difference. It's like when you look at, a case like this and you look at what
Yeah,
Just
parents should. If somebody said parents should never escort to the hospital, and they shouldn't. But once again, when you are in the moment and where we were and what we were doing, you do what you need to do.
you
So
do it.
I knew the call
Absolutely.
and how you, but you are right. You shouldn't. And but there is a reality that everything can happen right away. However, at the school, it becomes a different scenario because law enforcement response to a school, child protective services response to a school is different than it is to a home and other places. There is an immediate response that is required by law enforcement when it comes to a school. They're supposed to be prompt. They're supposed to be there. Now, child protective services should come out right away, but that does not always happen. In my daughter's case, when I called them from the school, the teacher called. She didn't have all the info. I talked to them. I said, what do you want me to do? They said I could go home. I didn't understand. That didn't make any sense. But long story short, it took them hours to get to my home. It was dark outside. Dark. Now he was still there. I made him, and he was a big man and martial arts, but he already knew I'd take him out like that about my daughter. But it took hours and hours. So what I am saying is, when you are in the moment of anything, you don't know what you're going to do until the moment. Ethan said, help me. The moment was then where there was administrators and the mom and the dad and teachers, and everything could have happened right then.
Yep. That was
Didn't
it. That was the moment in time. Like that was the moment in time for me that locked in accountability for the parents.
Right.
It was just, that was it. It
And
was
that's
like,
that suitability. You know that I use the word suitability, that he was not suitable because when we think about our children, we think about age and circumstances. So is this product suitable for the child? Like, we have parameters on age for movies and things. And although it might say not, if they're showing a movie not good for a child, it's like of a certain age. But if you know who your child is, your child might not fit that. So what is suitable? And a gun in the hands of a child that had these issues that were known to the parents. This was not new. It was not suitable.
Like 100%. And like you said, it's like in the movie example is a perfect thing. It's like, I know my kids and their maturity level. Like my kids, I always like, my favorite movie is probably Shawshank Redemption. I love that movie. There's one scene, the shower scene when he's in there, that I'll always like, because I had all my kids watch Shawshank when they were 11 years old. And I'm like, some folks are like, that's too young. And I'm like, nah, not for me. It's like, I love the story, and it's, so, but when you're talking about, being tone deaf to what, like that ability to be able to look at your kid and say, all right, my kid's mature enough to handle that. And I'm talking about just as something like a movie, when you're talking about something about like a weapon, putting a weapon in your child's hand, and you're that tone deaf as to everything that's going on with your kid. I mean, it goes back to that thing that, we got to take driver's ed and pass a test to get a license to drive a car, but any old fool can become a parent, and it's that thing where you've got these folks that just have no idea or chose to ignore what was going on with their kid, and as that trial progresses, they're going to get into these older texts where, Ethan's talking about, he's having these visions, these hallucinations back in March, and they're poo-pooing. And they're talking about, I should have given him a Xanax, and I gave him a half a melatonin. They're trying to like drug the kid to sleep instead of acknowledging that this kid is having like vivid hallucinations. Like they were just ignoring everything, all the telltale signs of anything that any parent that gave a shit about their kids would be all over. You know what I mean? And it's like one of those things. Like, so I wanted to throw this up. I had put it up, and $5 holla from Adam, who I love, and he's got a good point. And it's going to kind of like, it's going to the, just the mindset. in terms, so, and it's a great comment, it's seen as an option by disturbed kids due to news coverage and drills. In their
Mm,
mind, it's an option, same as pulling the fire alarm. And he's
wow.
talking about like it's like that. It's like the concept of, like the video games. Have they become immune to the violence? Because like I
Yeah.
don't know if there's validity to that. I mean, maybe there is. I mean, maybe it's watching the news and just seeing that we live in a savage society. I mean, we like the amount of violence that goes on in this country is stunning to me. I can't even stomach it. It's never ending, and it's always been here. I mean, this was a country that was
Mhm.
born out of savagery. I mean, we decimated the people that were the rightful inhabitants of this country and killed them. I mean, that's what this country was born out of, violence,
Yeah.
and we haven't changed one iota. And it's gotten progressively worse because I think that mental illness has gotten progressively worse because I mean we just, and that I think is all from everything that we are all constantly being exposed to in
Experience.
terms of
Yeah. Yeah.
everything like that, not even just like the stimuli, but just the things that we don't see, like these
Mhm.
radiation boxes that we're carrying around everywhere, like the things, the beams of radiation and death that are going through our bodies that we can't even see because they're not visible to the naked eye. I mean, they have to be affecting our minds. It just has to be. You know what I mean? And it's like we've gotten to this point in our society where we're violent. Like I don't know of another country on the planet that's quite as violent as we are.
I
I mean, I
don't,
just
not at all. I really don't. I agree. And as parents, children, I used to say children don't come with instructions. And when you have one child, it's different than when you have multiple children, because then you have all of those personalities and all of the things that you have to deal with. And it is very disturbing. There's just so much coming all the time. And Bob, even with what we do covering the cases on, all of the shows, and, when people are talking to me about other things, it, I have to take a break from that. So I used to just constantly always do something. And if you don't get a break and have some relief from all of this, it is, hey Jay, how you doing?
my boy.
if you
It's my boy.
if you don't, I know I love him. If you don't get a break from all of this, and let me say this to your listeners, the reason why I'm transparent about all of my flaws and failings and missteps and truth as a parent and as a person is because I never want anyone to look at me and say, "Oh, Sonny's got it all together." I am a human being. Now my children are my children and I. We've had a lot of stuff, right? But everything that I've gone through as a person, as a parent, as an expert, I use all of that. And I think it really makes me who I am. I am genuine, I am authentic, and I have a lot of empathy for other things that people go through. So I can talk differently about, because I can say, let me tell you about this. When I'm training law enforcement, and I talk about the things that, yeah, I saw somebody say, I can't imagine putting my child in a chokehold. Well, heck, I never imagined that either. In the moment, that is what happened. Is that
It had
something,
to. It
that
had to.
I want to be saying, oh, my child is in the choke? No,
No, it
but
had to
it is the
happen.
truth. Yeah, it is the truth. And I don't have any shame about that. Now, that same kid, that's my baby boy. I
Yep.
love him dearly. But he
Yep.
also knows when he rocks that boat, he was not raised to do some of the things that he has done. He is turning the corner. My oldest daughter is the head of she is the manager for a large corporation doing well, the one that was the victim. She is a mom. She's thriving. But did she not have her problems? Oh, absolutely. Years and years of therapy. And I continue to talk to her to make sure she's still in therapy. My oldest son, he's a scientist, a Howard grad, HBCU, Bison man, doing his thing. And my youngest daughter, she actually is a case manager at a reentry program. My youngest son, well, he just got out of jail and he was in
And
there for a minute.
that's why I
So
love you. Like I knew the first time we were on together, whatever it was, months ago, that we were like kindred spirits. I'm the same way. Like I'm a open book. You know what I mean? It's like I am who I am, and I've had all kinds of life experiences, good, bad, ugly,
yeah,
and it's like, and I'll talk about them. It's like I just don't shy away from it, because in terms of like being able to give insight into something,
exactly.
unless you've experienced it, I don't know that you have much to say. And if you can't be honest about the shit that we go through as human beings, and I say it all the time, there is no such thing as a perfect human. I don't
No.
give a shit. Like, it's social media, all that's all bullshit. Like, we all have flaws, we all have warts, we all are damaged in one way or another. That's
Yeah.
the human condition. That's facts. And it's
Doesn't
like,
that make you
I
do your
love
work
that you're able to talk about that. We're rare though, Sonny. Like,
yeah,
most
I
people
mean,
aren't.
look, I have a whole TEDx talk about my daughter and what happened. And my kids, let me tell you something. If I need some backup in the crew, my kids are down like 4 flat tires. They roll
No doubt.
no matter what, my children, and they're proud of me. Even though I talk about the hardest things in our lives, you know what they say? Mom, we are so proud of you. And when I think about Ethan, and let me just say, when I think about his victims, those who are not here and those who are still here, when I listen to the testimony of the school administrator, I think she was the vice principal or something, and she said she turned and he looked at her and he still shot her. She texted her husband, I love you, active shooter. When I cover critical incidents on the news, I always have to, of course, they're calling me. I'm getting the updates and I'm preparing to say what I hope will be something that people will resonate with people. I am also saying I have one shot to actually sound good and not fall apart, but I am thinking about the victims. I am thinking about what was happening with the perpetrator. I am thinking about the law enforcement experts and professionals behind the badge and the wall who may or may not make it home. I'm literally, and I like get overwhelmed. And I said, oh my, I take all of that in. And we're having a show about a case where a 16-year-old took his gun to school, murdered his classmates, attempted to kill others, and wrote on a piece of paper, help me. And his parents put the gun in his hand. I don't care that his mother may not have been there when his daddy bought it. They were together. They were both culpable, and they didn't do a damn thing to save their son or anybody else.
100%. I could not agree more. All right. And that's a perfect segue. So let's look at so they've all been charged. Both of them been charged with involuntary manslaughter. I want to talk about what the state has to prove. All right. And it's interesting because, going into it, the prosecutor had to kind of look at this and wonder, what charge fits. You know what I mean? It's always because they have to be able to prove each and every element of the crime. All right. And when you're talking about establishing involuntary manslaughter, and I'm going to read through it, this is what the state has to prove. And they have to prove all three of these elements. So, and this is from Michigan law. All right. So when you
Oh,
are charged with involuntary manslaughter, the prosecution must prove beyond a reasonable doubt all the following in order to get a conviction. First, that the individual caused the death of the victim. That is, that the victim died as a result of the individual's act. Now, that to me, Sonny, is probably the biggest challenge in terms of what the state has to do in this case, because it's really a but-for argument, meaning that clearly she wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. However,
right.
but for her inaction, but for her not doing her duty as a parent, having the knowledge that she had in her hands the morning that the shooting took place, but for her not doing what she should have done, those kids are dead. So I mean, and that's the approach the state's going to have to take on that. But it's a stretch of the statute. You know what I mean? It's not like typically you get these involuntary manslaughter charges in like vehicular, like a drunken driving type situation, where somebody gets behind the wheel, they're driving, they run into another car and they kill people. This is typically what they charge them with. This is the first time it's been used that I'm aware of anywhere in the country to bring parents to justice, because we had the Highland Park parade shootings here a couple summers ago. I don't know if you remember that. This
Covered that nightmare. Too.
Yeah, in very similar circumstances,
right?
Wherein they knew that the kid was having all kinds of psychological issues, and the dad signed off on his FOIA request, which is like what you need in Illinois in order to get a firearm. So similar circumstances. So the second thing, in doing that act, or in doing the act that caused the victim's death, the individual acted in a grossly negligent manner, or in doing the act that caused the victim's death, the individual intended to injure the victim. So that's an either or proposition. Obviously, it's the grossly negligent manner, which is what we're going to be applied here. For example, an individual commits assault and battery with the intent to inflict injury, but instead causes an unintended death. Then this amounts to at least involuntary manslaughter. And just so everybody understands, manslaughter is a homicide. It's just it's the lowest form of homicide under first-degree murder, second-degree murder, voluntary manslaughter, and then involuntary manslaughter. So it falls under the homicide statute. And then third, that the individual caused the death without lawful excuse or justification.
I think they mean
I think they'll meet all three of them. I think that the first one is going to be, and we got a glimpse on the openings in terms of what the state's case is going to be. And obviously the state's going to be using a lot of the evidence that we've been looking at here, and additional evidence as well, to show that it was well established that they had knowledge that Ethan had issues, and that they just were ignoring it,
So, Bob, let's unpack something really quick. When you think about, because you're the lawyer, so let me be the public. When in cases where if a person commits a robbery, right? They have a gun, and three people, me and you and Jay, were at this. I decide I want to commit a robbery, right? And thank you, Sandy. I decide I want to commit. We're out together. I decided I want to commit a robbery. You all don't necessarily know I'm going to do this. We're all together at the location, and we're at the liquor store, and I pull out a gun, and then I shoot the store person, and then you both rob the store, or I rob them, but then you also take some of the money or something like that. Are you culpable?
100%. Yeah, it's like, it's the accountability. It's like our first client out of law school, when we first started practicing in Philly, like just hung our shingle. Two buck-ass rookie lawyers had no idea what the hell we were doing. And we had And that was back when I smoked. Alice and I both smoked, and we were out on the street we were on like our office. We got in a little office space on Walnut Street in downtown in Center City, Philly. And we were out there smoking, and this big tall kid was walking around like in front of, like on the street, kind of like just looking for a lawyer. And he said, "Hey, are y'all lawyers?" We said, "Yeah, we're lawyers. What's up?" And, you know, he starts to tell us a story about his dad, that his dad has been in prison for, at that point, 20 years. And he was arrested when he was 17 years old for exactly what you're talking about. It was under an accountability. He was, the state alleged that he was, it was identical to the fact pattern you just gave me. He was allegedly the lookout, or he was supposed to go in and scout whether or not this convenience store that they were going to rob, whether it was good to go. And by the time, so the way that the story went is Muti went in, you know, he was first. And now Muti, when we got to him, said that he was not involved in any way that the state was saying that he was. He was there, you know, and they were in the projects. It was like, you know, he was just hanging out with his homies talking shit. And like, he didn't know something for real was going down. You know what I mean? It's like, because we were handling the Post-Conviction Relief Act petition. And so he says, he walks out, and the words he says is, "This ain't cool." You know, so, and then he walks, and he's 2 blocks away, literally 2 blocks away. Turns out that his buddies, one of them goes in, ends up shooting and killing the storekeeper. He's charged with felony murder. And at that point, he's 17, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Two blocks away, didn't have anything to do, didn't even take the money, you know, had nothing to damn do with it. And, you know, so we took it on, and he actually was just released last year, and he had always maintained his innocence. He's like, I was in with my boys, but you know, they were talking shit. This is what we do. You know, I mean, this is what our life was like in the projects. It's just, you know, and it was like for us, yeah, it was, I mean, it was real life, you know, and I'm sitting there, you know, and I was telling the judge when we were arguing, trying to get him a hearing on the PCRA. And like, I said something to the effect, I'm like, Your Honor, you know, in terms of, you know, where these kids were growing up, I mean, they're not sitting there having a book club meeting. You know, they're sitting there talking shit like this. Like, I mean, that like my client had no idea, you know, that this time is for real compared to every other time they may have been talking shit about doing some shit. You know what I mean? It was like he had no knowledge, actual knowledge that it was going down that day. So it was you know, but yeah, I mean, you're like, under the law, you're accountable. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, if they can show you
I think they have them because they have prior knowledge, not of the murder or pending murder, but of his mental and emotional state, even though it might not have been to the full extent that he would kill someone. They knew something was not well with him. So why would you put a gun in the hands of a child that was not well at all? That, I mean, that even if you took him to the gun range by himself, I mean, you know, he was with you all. The problem is he had access to the guns outside of you. He knew the combination or whatever. He had his own gun, and he was able to take it to school. And then there was the text message and all. So I think it is not as big of a stretch as, well, you know, Jennifer is saying that she did not sign off on the paper, you know, for the purchase of the guns and those. I don't know if you have those kinds of things.
Yeah, no, I don't have those, but like,
that's what that is part of her defense. But then how do you ignore your text messages?
If that's the case against Jane.
I
Exactly.
mean, you literally saw on the paper, help me.
That, to me, that is it. Like, in this day and age, a parent can't be handed a piece of paper like that in school in light of the fact that she knew from the day before that the kid was searching for bullets. It just showed his mind was on murder, or at the very
Yeah.
least, he was obsessing about the gun. She knew, she followed him on Instagram. She knew that he'd been posting pictures of him holding the gun right after he
Yes.
got it. They had just bought the gun 4 days earlier, which goes to your point earlier. Like, this was not the kid that you're buying a gun for,
Ever.
not under
Ever.
any circumstances.
And
And
they circumvented the law by purchasing the gun for him, because he would have had to do something different if he tried to obtain the gun himself
yeah, I mean, it's
without them. So, number one, that the individual caused the death of the victim, that is, that the victim died as a result of the individual's act. And for me,
yep,
I think the individual's act was that they knowingly, even though not necessarily with malice and forethought, but they knowingly put a gun in the hands of an individual who was unstable, incapable, and not suitable to have a firearm. Not legally, he wasn't.
right.
So they were part of a criminal act and a criminal conspiracy. I know this is a stretch legally, but the criminal conspiracy goes to my point that they circumvented the law that was designed, even though we know that it doesn't. But in this case, the law was designed to keep weapons out of the hands of individuals who do not have the capacity to have them.
100%. I mean, there's no question. And I think under the first element, no action is in the eyes of the law the same as an overt act. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, the fact that they had the knowledge, all the stuff
Mhm.
that you were talking about going in, the fact that they had bought him the gun, the fact that he had access to the gun, the fact that they knew that he was damaged psychologically and were not doing anything about it, the fact that, she's getting text messages the day before and calls from the school that this kid is like sitting in school, like looking at some shit that a normal kid in school is not looking up with
Right.
respect to like bullets. And then when you compound all of that and put that piece of paper in their hand and they do nothing, that satisfies element one to me, and it's like the interesting thing about this trial, and I was watching it on Law and Crime stream, because like they didn't have the commercials, it was just the straight stream.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm looking at the chat, and the chat is America. You know what I'm saying? And like you
Yeah.
see the chat, and
Yeah.
you see all the folks like, oh hell no, now we're gonna, like, every parent's gonna now be arrested for everything that their kids do. It's like that is the mentality that we're dealing with. We were talking about Michigan. We were talking about
Yes.
a heavy duty militia state. There are a lot of gun
Yeah.
toting militia type mentality people in Michigan. I don't know what that jury's made up of. All it takes is one, to say, oh, hell no, I'm not willing to take it. It's a bridge too far. I'm not willing to do it. Where what you and I are arguing here is it's a case by case basis.
Right.
It
Yeah.
has to be.
I'm all of, look, I have been hunting. I used to go out with my first husband, not the one that committed the offense against my daughter. I didn't have any kids at the time. I was young. I come from a hunting fair. My father's from the South, from Yamasee. So, hunting 30-06, scope
Yeah.
out there, deer, other kinds. I learned to, skin a squirrel. I was probably like 8 with my dad. So I am not saying that everybody needs to take away their guns or anything like that. I am for gun safety, gun prevention, gun intervention, and reducing gun violence. I'm very clear about that. And the fact that we need to have these conversations that you and I are having very authentically and organically, and we are touching on a little bit of everything, which I think is really good. And I'm going to use this. I actually have a meeting. I won't say with which one, but I have a meeting with the United States Senator in February. At the beginning of February, I'm going. I was at a political event, and it was a small gathering. And we had the chance to ask questions and talk about gun violence because I am covering all these on the news. And I talked about gun violence at the intersection of mental health and how politicians they throw out things. And I said, I would like for you all to stop doing that because you all don't have this is not a political issue. This is really a people's issue, and you don't have the right talking points. And
Right.
So in the crowd, and I was the new person in the room, I kept thinking, oh, they're never going to invite me back. Okay. They are not going to have me back at anything else because I don't care who it is. When it doesn't have to be a D or R. I don't care. And I was like, look, I need y'all not to do this, this, and this, and this, and that. And
I take great comfort in the fact knowing that you're going to be there with your voice. You know that.
Yeah,
like, seriously, I'm the same way. It's like
I was a little
I'm
scared.
not anti. Yeah.
Well, I was a little scared in the room because I said, "Oh no, they're never having me." But I was the last question, and the entire room broke out in applause, and he did too. He was like, "Oh," and he was like, those are really good. So, he said to me, afterwards, and he said, do you have a card? Because I would like for you to meet with my staff. Because
look, you know what lesson you need to take from that? Don't underestimate how amazing you are. And I mean,
oh God, thank you.
I'm serious. I'm serious.
I'll be pushing the buttons for folks. I will push those.
We're counting on you. We're counting on you. I mean, we need those voices. Yeah,
I'm going to be in the room, but I am taking Bob Mata. I am taking this. I am going to let them know that we had this conversation and that all of you were here in the room with me from all across the world. And we were having I'm going to ask them to start listening without speaking to the people who are talking. We don't all agree on here either. We don't have to. We all have our own opinions, but this is a case. But this particular case, I'm saying what I'm saying because I was going to talk about gun violence and mental health. But now this is a conversation that you and I are having here with all of our wonderful friends and your amazing followers. Thank you for having me again. But now this case is another level and another layer. And you are right. This is a state where guns are. Why are Americans so attached to guns? I think that is a really good question because guns are a part of our history from the very beginning of time. And the gun trade, I'm one of the few non-sworn persons to have taken the Drug Task Force Supervisor School for Homeland Security. So guns and drugs and our conversations and in the training, it is guns, unfortunately, are the American way, but they are actually a crisis for us right now too, in the way in which we handle them. Because Bob, you said earlier, I watch a lot of Asian films. They're not killing each other in all of these other countries in the way they don't have guns, the access to guns, not even in police force or think. Yeah,
look at Japan, the UK. I mean, I think Australia now. It's like, and I'm not I'm not anti Second Amendment. I'm a constitutionalist. I understand what the actual the intent of the Second Amendment was, and people
Right.
have to remember that at that point we were occupied by at that point we considered to be an enemy, being British soldiers who were quartering up in our homes, and we felt like we had no control. And the entire purpose of writing that thing was to say, okay, we need to be able to have ourselves armed as to protect ourselves from the government, not to kill each other, which is what it's been bastardized into. And,
Mm.
I'm all for folks hunting. There's a lot of good uses for weapons. I don't see any use for AKs and AR-15s. I don't see why normal folk have to have it. I guess when this country devolves to the point where this civil war that I think might be happening in the next couple of years, if shit goes down in 2024, at that point,
I'm so scared.
maybe we all got to take up our, it's a scary proposition, but we can't pretend like there's not a divide in this country in terms of the way people want to live, and it's a thing where, so I get the Second Amendment, obviously in terms of what's going on in our society and just the number of it's beyond comprehension how much killing is going on. And I live in Chicago, and there is so much senseless murder happening in this city that, people that look at our city from the outside are like, holy shit, I don't even want to go. I'm like, people are getting killed constantly there. It's like, we're always in the top 3 for the number of murders. And it's just like, it's senseless, and it was a bit by Chris Rock years ago, but it has always stuck with me. And, and it was meant to be funny, but I think that he said it in jest, but he meant it. He's like, we don't need gun control. We need bullet control. If every bullet costs $5,000, people would be thinking for a fucking minute before they go and shoot somebody. Because you know what I mean? Like honestly, think about it. If the ammo costs a fortune, you're not going out there popping off. You're gonna have to really think about
that's gonna be like 2 bullets. That's $100. No. Yeah, that's
what
like,
I'm saying.
like, how many people can I shoot at? Oh, none.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I have to eat this week. But
Adam, that's the point. That's the counter. That's the counter, right?
Yeah.
They'll just take and drone us to death.
It's
like.
Ethan was the question now when we talk about Ethan and we talk about this case and we talk about school shootings, who are they fighting? What is the war going on in schools that we are losing? What war were these school shootings? When you think about time, location, the concept of where large group of people, but the shooters, can we get to that point? What is happening in our schools that cause individuals to feel the need to go in to what was once a safe place where they spend more time than any other place? They spend more time at school than they do at home. So what are they doing there? What is happening there that causes this much rage? Or what is happening at home that causes them to go there to school to take out whatever it is? We have got to figure out what it is, because we are losing too many children. I did my reel for 2023 and I did more than 120 segments, and I did more mass shootings in last year than at any other time that I have covered the news. I have been on CNN, local news stations, the radio, and in almost 20 years.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's like, and it's not curbing. You know what I mean? It's getting worse. It's not getting better. It's just, and it's so, I mean, for anybody with school age kids, man, to send your kids off to school
And
every
college
day and
kids. Yeah.
all of it, you know, and it's like you're right. Like, I remember when it used to be like people are going postal because it was like these things were happening in
Yes.
post offices, and then for some reason it segued into these school shootings, I guess, starting right around Columbine, and then, you know, kind of just graduating from there. And it's like, I don't know what the cause is. I don't know. I think a lot of it is exactly what Adam said. You know, it's like this thing where, you know, these kids are going through these, you know, where they have the days where they're like, okay, we're going to do our active shooter drill. And for these kids, it's the same concept as pulling a fire alarm, that they're not capable of understanding the damage that they're doing. You know what I mean? It's like kids cannot think and appreciate the just the enormous impact that that our actions are going to have, not just on the families, but the entire community in the world. They don't think that way yet. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think there's a lot of truth to what he said in that sense. It's like, I don't know if it's just, if they're just like, it's desensitized. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's frustrating and it's scary. So, all right, I've kept you for an hour and 42. You are an amazing human being. We
didn't even get to the good stuff. It's all my fault because I took us all.
No. Like, we got to this has all been good. And trust me, now that I know that you're all up in this case, I'll have you on imminently.
Well, this is really good. I just want to say thank you to your amazing followers. And so I love you all. Let me tell you something. We don't have to agree, right? We don't all have to agree, because if we all agree, then we wouldn't be having a conversation. We'd just all be sucking up all each other's air.
Exactly.
I think we have authentic, organic conversations where we're like, everybody's opinion matters. Okay. I really do. I'm listening. I believe you all. Thank you, Bob. You know, I got nothing but love for you. You are one of the first people that greeted me with open arms. I just want y'all to know, Bob and I were behind the scenes, always talking, and we used to have to be quiet because it was time to go on, and we'd be talking about the cases. But I have had.
Well, that's why I love this for us, because we could just air it out. You know what I mean? And like, I love you. I love your stories. I love the knowledge and the insight you bring. You're the truth, you know? So, but yeah, I'm going to definitely, as we're following this thing, I definitely want to have you back on for sure.
Thank you so much.
We'll get into it as we're going through, as the trial.
Beautiful. Oh my
This is Scout. This is our 11-year-old. She's the last of the bunch.
Beautiful. How are you?
Yeah.
How you doing? Oh, you must look like your mama.
Oh man.
You are gorgeous. Oh.
It is?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's high blood pressure.
I love it. You are beautiful. Your dad is amazing. He is so smart. I feel smarter just for being on it. And look, let me tell you, your mom, I have not met her yet, but she is definitely my sister. Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna love her. Trust me. Next time you're on, it'll be the three of us, and y'all.
Oh, sounds good. Thank you so much. I hate to be long-winded. Thank you all, Bob.
You are amazing.
I appreciate.
Thank you for joining last second.
Yeah, sounds good. Have a good night, everybody, and I'll see you soon on the news.
See you on the flip side.
Love you.
Bye.
I love you too. Bye.
All right, y'all. So Sunny's amazing. I love her. She was one of the first I met when I started doing like the talking head stuff. And, I mean, she speaks for herself. Like, you can't not love everything that she brings to the table, because she's just authentic and real and genuine and smart and, just a wonderful person. So, all right, y'all, I'm going to go through some shout outs. Jersey Jen gifted 1 Defense Diaries podcast membership. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. $10 holla from Mr. Adam Malone. Real Crime with Cletus. I heard there's big things on the horizon. Follow my boy's YouTube channel, please. And definitely follow his Twitter as well. If my mods didn't put it in there, you should please put Adam's stuff in there. Thank you so much, brother, for that generosity. You were just killing the generosity the entire way, man. Another $5 from Adam. Give it till it hurts, brother. I beyond appreciate that. Thank you so much. Sandy.
5 Defense Diaries podcast memberships.
Nailed it. What do we got here?
$10 house super sticker.
Yeah, baby. $10 holla. Sandy coming through again. She's been a member for 3 months. Ooh, love that. She's a long timer. I mean, we're a little baby channel here, so that's big for me. Charmaine, whoa, 10 Defense Diary podcast memberships. Thank you. You're always so incredibly giving, Charmaine. We adore you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
New member.
Oh, Bugapoo 2.
Aw,
welcome.
Bugapoo.
Thank you so much for becoming a member.
Bugapoo
we hope that we
02.
02. Yeah, that's true. I think you just say 2. Bugapoo 02.
02.
Yeah, whatever. Thank you so much, Bugapoo. We're welcome to the family. We hope that you give the word to your people and let them know that we're trying to put some good content out here that matters. Trinity, $2 holla.
Actually, it's not money. What? It's actually euros.
It is euros from Germany.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming across the big pond. We appreciate you so much for being here and hanging out with us. Adam came through with like 17 strong tonight, dude. Thank you, brother. That's incredibly generous of you. Thank you, man. And just so you know, you don't have to give me money. I'll throw your questions up there, brother. But I appreciate you so much, man. Jennifer, J25, thank you so much for that $5 holla. Thank you, Bob and Sonny, for coming on and having this important discussion. It's our pleasure. I was like I said, like being able to pivot from Joshua, who's brilliant in his own right, and he's a lawyer, but to be able to pivot to Sonny, who's just brilliant and just real. And I love her. So it was awesome. And it's a nice balance to get both sides, because like, who needs a couple of lawyers yapping? It's nice to have Sonny's wisdom in here and bringing like what she brings to the table. I really enjoyed the conversation tonight. So thank you so much for that $5 holla. And Shiraz,
they just
20.
keep doubling.
It's unbelievable.
It went from 1 to 5 to 10 to 20.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And I see you. I know. I remember how many you gifted out last time. You are an amazing human being. Thank you so much for helping this community grow. That's huge for us. So that is a lot of love coming from our end, coming out to all of y'all. So thank you guys so much. Sorry for the last minute switch up on who was guesting with me. I hope y'all found Sonny to be as wonderful as I did. And I hope you found this to be interesting. I'm going to be following this case. It's a nice break from Delphi. Obviously, I'll be doing Delphi stuff as well. And as a matter of fact, I have a live tomorrow night before my boys at Publicly Buzzed, which I am going to be portaling you in here now over to the boys at Publicly Buzzed. Hang out with them. They're talking about that crazy thing that went down in Kansas City with the 3 buddies who ended up you're killing my leg. With the 3 boys that the buddies that ended up being found dead in this guy's backyard after watching the Chiefs game. They're digging in. I feel bad that I probably dipped into their time. Hopefully they're still going. And when I end this, you guys are automatically, without having to do anything, you're going to go over there. And if you haven't hung with Steve and Dan, hang. They're amazing guys. They're wonderful human beings. They put great content out there. And I really want you guys to hang with them. And make sure you subscribe here. Make sure you subscribe there. Make sure you subscribe to Jay and Shannon and her channel. And also to Joe Jackalone. That's our crew. And also to Adam Malone. Okay. And it's Real Crime All right, it's true crime. Wait, Adam, what is it? It's true crime. No, real crime with Cletus, but he spells it funny because it's part of the act. It's an amazing, like I love his stuff so much. So make sure you're subbing there. Hopefully the mods are throwing Adam's stuff in there because I'm trying to push people to his content because he's a super bright guy. All right, y'all, I'm losing the voice. I've been fighting the cough for a couple weeks. So you guys are amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. Because as you know, and I say it every time because this is true, without y'all, I'd just be an old man talking about old cases. Talk to you next time.